I just want to start off this video by saying it was kind of hard for me to make it, especially since the person I'm talking about is someone I really look up to. This isn't some really flashy exposed video or anything, and it's not really a serious problem, but it is a problem and it does affect our community. The person I'm going to be talking about here is Aurora. He is considered to be the #1 Skywars player by many people in the community. We all see him as like a god in our time. You know, he's one of the best competitive players. He has over 12 Masters divisions, being the #1 player in terms of how many Masters divisions he has. And he also has really high tournament placements, including a #1 spot. Part of the reason he's admired so much in this community is because he is considered to be extremely legit. In a community full of cheaters and boosters, it's actually a crown jewel to have someone who's actually good at the game and be legit. But recently I've had some conversations with him and it's changed my perception on how legit he is. Now granted, there may be some room for error in these conversations where I might not be understanding certain things, but I've done my research on the very small details that he's given me, and I've put together a good analysis of whether he's legit or not. And after I put together my findings, I really question whether he cheats or not. So a little over a month ago, I was looking for a new mouse and I noticed that Aurora in his videos would get above 20 CPS really frequently. Like, it would be crazy. And I knew that he butterfly clicked because he's mentioned it before, but I basically asked him what mouse he had because I was curious as to what mouse would double click that well. And he responded to me by saying that he has the Death Adder Essential. Now, the Death Adder Essential is a mouse made in 2019, and recently gaming companies have been reducing the double click issues that have been occurring in their mice. So I was already skeptical at that point. So I asked him here, as you can see, from this year, they still have double clicking issues. And so I was basically clarifying whether he was using the Death Adder 2013, which double clicks like crazy, or whether he was using the Essential. I bought the Death Adder Essential at that point and it had been delivered to me. And I was very curious as to how well it would double click. Well, when I used it, it didn't double click at all. So that immediately set off a lot of alarms. So I asked him, you know, how long did it take for Essential to double click? Because a lot of mice only double click after a lot of wear and tear, when their switches start degrading and then they start registering 2 clicks instead of 1. So he's questioning, you know, what is considered double clicking? So at this point, I'm like, dude, you butterfly click and you don't even know what double clicking is? Like, that's the main thing that powers your entire clicking technique. And so I explained sort of to him, and he's like, it's been clicking the same since I got it, which it cannot be true. I mean, it has to be a mouse that automatically starts double clicking like the Glorious Model O, but with a Death Adder, that's literally not possible. So I asked him whether he had some sort of problem, which this could still be a thing. Like, he could still have some sort of weird switch problem in his mouse. But I want to mention that 20 CPS on a Death Adder Essential is literally impossible. Like, you cannot do that because they've released a lot of firmware that prevents double clicking. Unlike the Glorious Model O, the Death Adder Essential doesn't have any sort of debounce time adjustment, so you can't even adjust that and get more CPS that way. As you can see here, I have my Death Adder plugged in, and you can tell that there's no debounce time adjustment. I wanted to show you guys this because this is what I think Aurora might be using. There's a feature here where you can literally program or macro your left click in your mouse to be a double click button. And so I think that's what he might be using. It just makes your CPS double instantly. So that's not very legit in my opinion. The one drawback of that method, however, is you need to bind your left click to another mouse button. So you can't really break blocks with that double click bound to the left click button. And so I think he might actually not be using that too. I don't know, there's a high possibility of him using it and him not using it. Here's the Death Adder Essential. We can see the box right here, and we know from just looking at it over here. So yeah. All right, so if I just butterfly click right now, I'm only getting like 12 CPS max. It's not because I'm bad, I hope, but it's just because this mouse does not double click at all. I mean, that's just the proof. And if I drag click, drag clicking depends a lot on double clicking. If I just drag click, I'm only getting like 6 CPS, whereas on my Model O, I would get a hefty 20. I go to Razor and I enable the double click. Save, enabled it. Now look at the CPS I get. Easy 20. So here we are. I want to show you something here. Now, as you can see, Here, he's about to fight someone, right? So let me just unpause this. He's purling in. Look at his CPS. Did he catch that? It was really fast. His CPS jumps so much. And you can see there's no micro adjustments in his aim. When you butterfly click that hard, your aim sometimes shakes side to side if you have high sensitivity. And you can actually tell that Aurora has a really high sensitivity if you just watch this. The thing is, the Death Adder Essential can double click, but it only happens a long time after you get the mouse. And it has to happen after 5 million clicks or whenever the switch fails. Which doesn't line up with Aurora's story here because he tells me that his has been clicking the same way ever since he got it out of the box. If he is cheating, he's either using some sort of auto clicker or using the Razer Death Adder software to program 2 clicks on 1. Another possibility could be that he told me the wrong mouse name and he actually meant the Razer Death Adder Chroma. And I know what you're probably thinking. Why would anyone need 20 CPS? Why is it an advantage? Why would anyone need to auto click to risk their entire reputation of being a legit player? Well, in order to be the best Skywars player, you have to have near perfect game sense and near perfect PvP. The thing about Aurora is that he combines both in order to win his games. When you have near perfect PvP, there are 3 elements to consider. You must have good movement, good CPS, and good aim. The thing about movement is there are no real hacks to help you with movement. The thing about aim is there is aim assist, but it sucks. It locks on to other things and it's not really good. And about CPS, there's one hack that does help your CPS, and that's an auto clicker. And it turns out that an auto clicker can help both of the other 2 elements as well in PvP. An auto clicker can make sure that you take away focus from actually clicking high CPS, and that lets you relax your mind on something like movement and aim. Auto clickers let you aim easier because you don't have to tense up your arm as much, so there would be a good motive to use an auto clicker here. On top of that, Aurora is a mute, which means he's never really revealed his voice before. He hasn't done any sort of mouse and keyboard sounds videos. He hasn't done anything that would give away any personal information. That could be considered as a thing for privacy, but it could also be the perfect concealment for auto clicking. Honestly, with how messed up this community is, I don't really blame him, and honestly, these are just allegations, so the only thing Aurora can do in this case to defend himself is just release a mouse and keyboard sounds video. I want to see if those clicks are actually legit. Besides that though, it is understandable to see why anyone would want to cheat in the current landscape of our community.